Welcome back to r/neighbors from hell, where people share stories about their crazy neighbors. And if you're new to my channel, please don't forget to subscribe to join our amazing community. And without any further ado, let's dive right into the stories. The first one is titled, "Neighbors built an illegal trailer park next to my property and created a giant mountain of trash." And by the way, in case you are wondering, no, this is a new story and not the trailer park one we read a couple of weeks ago. Anyway, this is a story about how I got the best revenge imaginable on the people that used to be my neighbors. I use that term loosely because first of all, the land next to my property was not owned by anybody, but that did not stop this family from parking their 3 trailers there. I don't really have high standards for people because I'm a farmer and I know that some rich snobs probably look down on me as well. These people though were next level and spent their days drinking, screaming, cursing and more drinking. It turned out that they actually did have a job and owned a waste removal company. I guess they were just busy spending all the money on beer. I also saw plenty of lotto tickets lying around that I can only assume came from them. Now, I basically hated these neighbors and wanted exactly zero to do with them. They were not on my land, so I just tried to mind my own business and take care of what I needed to do. I have some chickens, some cows and a small area for vegetables. I just wanted to be out here living my best life despite them. The first problem though happened when I caught one of them trying to steal my chicken. One night I heard a ruckus and went outside to see one of them near where I fence in my chicken coop trying to cut it open. I can only assume the plan was to steal a chicken, but the second that he saw me, this guy bolted back to his trailer. I could not ignore these people and had to keep on high alert in case they tried to pull anything else. That was not the only issue with these neighbors though. I understand that some people are not exactly neat, heck, I'm a little messy myself. Now, since they did not own the land, they did not actually get trash picked up by the town and instead had to deal with it themselves. This ranged from them moving it out where I keep my garbage to doing nothing at all. I did not care if they put trash out with mine because it was getting taken away anyway. I guess it became too hard for them though because they just started letting things pile up outside near the property line. A mountain of trash started to form and I was disgusted going anywhere near that side of my property. It was a huge health hazard and that was when I decided I had enough with these guys. I was going to get some revenge and teach them a lesson. Now, since they were very loud, I could always hear them bragging among themselves how they did not declare any taxes for their business. This way, they did not pay anything for it and talked about how much money they would save doing this. I used this knowledge to my advantage and made a little call to the IRS that the company doing waste management for most of the town was not declaring anything. I knew after a while this took effect because I could hear them yelling from one trailer to the other about the IRS auditing them and which one of them let it slip what was going on. They did not even suspect I had anything to do with it, and I was not done yet. The next thing, I don't know if I would really classify it as revenge or just doing the right thing. I know that I briefly mentioned how horrible the conditions these people were living in were before, but I neglected to say that they had kids living there too. Kids that I never saw go to school and were mostly kept locked in the trailers all day and night. Kids that were always dirty and surrounded by adults just getting drunk and leaving trash everywhere. They were mostly kept in the trailers and the few times I saw a kid, they looked sick to me. I could not just look at this and do nothing about it. Instead, I called Child Protective Services about my concern. A black car pulled up and a lady in a suit started knocking on the doors of the trailers and speaking to the people inside. I guess the conditions were bad enough that they actually took the kids away. I know that foster care is not the best environment, but please trust me when I say that I was not getting their kids taken away as some sort of sick revenge. They clearly were not being cared for and I was not going to just sit around and watch that display. In fact, seeing that made me even angrier at them and wanted to give them one last piece of revenge. This one bigger than anything else. Since I had livestock and crops, it was within my rights to have a nice big compost pile on my property, courtesy of my cows. I decided that the perfect place to put it would be right on the property line between me and the trailer park neighbors. For those that don't know what these compost piles smell like, you don't want to know. Farmers are a little more used to it, but these people certainly had this as a new smell for them. I had not seen them hanging outside of their trailers for a couple of weeks because it smelled too bad for them to go outside. For the first time in months, I did not hear screaming and cursing coming from them. I guess the smell finally got too much for them because that was the final straw for them to pack up their trailers and move out. I drove them away and I did not feel bad about it one bit. They did not own the land, were making it a disgusting place and even dragging innocent children into the whole thing. I don't want to know what they did after that, but I want to think and believe the best. I want to imagine that they got their acts together and found a better place to live. I want to imagine they were able to get their children back and treat them right from then on. The only thing I do know for sure was that their company was not in charge of the town waste management anymore, and looking up online, I could not find them anymore. So they either went bankrupt or started up again under a different name and let the scam continue. All I know is that I am enjoying the peace and quiet that I bought this land for in the first place. The chickens and cows are the only neighbors that I need at the end of the day. If someone buys that piece of land, good, but if someone else takes it over and starts trouble, I have no problems getting some revenge again. And yeah, Ripe Stars, as seasoned veterans of Reddit, we all know you just never mess with a farmer. That is lesson number 1, and you should always remember it. Anyway, if you still enjoy the stories about crazy neighbors and even more awful HOAs, then I would really appreciate it if you could also like the video, because that would help my channel tremendously. Thank you so much in advance. The next one is titled Revenge on Noisy Neighbors. Background: growing up, I lived with my parents in a 3-bedroom condo unit on the 2nd floor. There was only 3 condos in a unit, so we had only one apartment above us and one below us. The unit is a part of a few blocks worth of condominiums, and it is like its own little community. All the neighbors know each other and were always around to offer a helping hand. It was an awesome, quiet little nook filled with families in what was otherwise a very busy part of a large city. My parents still live there after 25 years since they bought the place when they first immigrated to America. My parents are for the most part very friendly people and had good relations with all our neighbors. Below us lived a nice Eastern European family, and above us a large Asian family who, despite the sheer amount of people living there, we never heard a peep from them. They were all on friendly terms, but it was very much a situation of I won't bother you, so you don't bother me. My entire childhood there was never any bad blood between any of the neighbors, and for the most part everyone just did their own thing and lent a helping hand once in a while. As a side note, my father worked in construction since he was a young kid, and building codes are essentially his bread and butter. Within the Department of Buildings and Fire Department in my state, he cultivated a reputation over the past 30 years as being one of the foremost experts in understanding building codes and spotting potential issues on any job site instantly. This is important to remember. Now on to the story. The trouble did not start until about 12 years after my parents moved in, and the nice large Asian family living in the unit above us decided to move out and sell the property. The new owners did a full renovation of the apartment. What they failed to do was properly insulate the floors again, which meant we heard every step, every little noise this family made at all hours of the day. Seriously, it was bad, especially when you're trying to sleep in, only to be woken up by what sounds like a rolling bowling ball on the floor at 6 AM on a Sunday. When this problem first occurred, my father went and spoke to the owner. He explained how by not adding insulation was a violation of several building codes and also a direct violation of the condominium contract they signed that stated that insulation in floors and wall is a must. This a-hole owner, AO, pretended not to speak English even though we constantly heard him yelling in English on the phone. My dad was quick to call him out on it, and when AO was caught, he started yelling in an Asian accented broken English that he could not understand him and that my dad needs to learn English. Now, English is not my dad's first language or even his third. He taught himself when he first came to America and got a job as a bellhop in a fancy hotel by reading newspapers. He has a heavy Eastern European accent, but you can easily understand him, and he is comfortable enough to hold a long conversation with someone in English. To hear this man yelling at him to learn English was not only rude but downright insulting. AO did this every time my dad tried to approach him about it during the time of his renovation to change the floors. After 6 months, there were no more contractors coming into the unit, and it was clear that AO had no intention of fixing the floors. My dad tried one more time and got the exact same response from AO, and my dad said, "F you, I will see you in court." I don't remember the exact way of how things were done, but I know that my dad got a building inspector to see the place, and they were issued at least a few fines for violations, but still refused to fix the floors. My dad then took them to court using a decibel meter to measure how loud the sounds from their apartment were to us. This trial lasted 2 years before the judge issued them a court order to fix the floors and then ordered them to pay a set amount to my dad. Again, AO paid the money to my father, but after 6 months still did not fix the floor. In fact, in those 6 months it was louder than ever. It felt like they were purposely walking louder, running and moving furniture at all hours of the day. I had taken to sleeping with music on to block out the noise. My father had enough. It was then that he decided to take things into his own hands. He placed some orders on the phone and got my uncles together. One morning they came back with huge boxes from the electronics store. They used the money from the court settlement to buy several $1,000s of those heavy bass speakers you see in clubs and in stadiums. Now remember, my father knows his stuff after years and years of both working on construction sites and working as an engineer. For the next 3 days, my father and my uncles all strategically cut holes in our ceilings, 1 hole in every room in the house. They would mount a speaker inside, do the wiring, and then strategically insulate it so they could direct the sound. Then they patched the holes right up as if there was never a hole there to begin with. That very night, they finished all the work. We were relaxing in the living room watching a movie when the stomping and running started. My dad casually leaned over to our stereo system and turned it on. I saw him fiddling with it for a moment before he turned the volume up all the way. Faintly from our ceiling came the sounds of Cotton-Eye Joe. We could just barely hear it with the television on inside, but when you stepped onto the balcony that was directly below the balcony of the people living upstairs, it sounded like they were blasting music from their apartment. My father played that song on repeat for over an hour and well into the night. They stomped angrily on the floor for a good while, but still that song played on. They banged on our door, which my father answered and yelled at him for playing the music. He just opened his door wider, and so all you heard was a loud TV, and my dad said, "You guys are the ones making noise," and closed the door in his face. For the next year, whenever the neighbors were running or stomping around, my dad would blare Cotton-Eye Joe on full repeat. They called the cops on us a few times, but my dad would just turn off the music and show the cops the court document that stated it was the neighbors with the noise violations. After about 2 times, the cops never came again. AO moved out after a year and a half, and during Cotton-Eye Joe. The place stood empty for a while until my dad found out that AO decided to rent the place out without fixing the floors again. For the next few years, that place must have gone through at least 8 different people renting it. My dad always spoke with the renters before they moved in and explained the court order on the apartment on the noise level. Whenever they got noisy, my dad had no problem blaring Cotton-Eye Joe on full blast. A few months ago, the unit went on the market. Real estate agents had to disclose that there was a court order on fixing the floors in this apartment. 2 days ago, my father closed on the upstairs unit at almost half the cost of the original listing price. Edit, I just spoke to my sister and she reminded me of how at one point we heard them ripping up the floors to look for the source of the noise. Because of the way the installation was placed, they could never find exactly where the speaker was located. I remember they looked for it for a good while, and then right after the construction noises stopped, that was when we came home to find a moving truck outside. Edit number 2, my dad is getting a kick out of your comments. He wanted me to tell anyone who is thinking of following his example to put the speakers in an insulated wooden box with the speaker side facing up. And then you have to line the insulation a few feet around the speaker. This is supposed to direct the sound so that it is coming from several directions at once. And he answered some additional questions for me. He did approach the board about it before the lawsuit, but they told him they cannot do anything about it because it was a private matter and was only affecting him and not everyone. Also, AO was responsible for a lot of his legal fees, so my dad did not lose much money on this whole thing. And the next one is titled, Today I screwed up by thinking I am all that to the neighbor ladies. This morning I was mowing the lawn. I was in shorts and a t-shirt and had my earbuds in. I live in an upscale modular home park where men are outnumbered by women 2 to 1. Most of us are middle-aged or older and try to mind our own business. The women are more flirty than usual, but that is fine. A few years ago, the senior lady across the street would make it a habit to watch me mow my lawn. Some days she brings me cookies or a hamburger or something to drink. This morning I was enjoying my music when 2 older women, probably mid to late 60s, walked by my place. They tried desperately to get my attention, but I was not in the mood to visit or be sociable. I'm known pretty well locally because I worked for our local paper and write restaurant reviews. On the second or third time I pushed my mower in the direction where they were in my line of sight, I could see them again, trying to get my attention. I really wanted to ignore them and didn't want to seem mean, but I stopped the mower and pulled out my earbuds and said to them, "How are you ladies? I cannot really stop to talk. I have a lot to do today." The one who had seemed most animated spoke up. "We are sorry to bother you, but we have grandchildren visiting us." Me, "Bring them over. I would like to meet them." Her, "It is not that. We just want you to zip up your shorts. We can see your underwear." But I gotta admit guys, the funniest thing about this post are the comments. One guy is saying, "As a German, everything about this from the setting to the interaction just baffles me." Then someone responded, "As an American, everything about this baffles me too." And then someone finally shed some light on the situation. It feels like a scene from Edward Scissorhands, to be honest. And the next one, a professional couple about 5 years younger than us bought the other side of our duplex from our friends who also had young kids. Initially, we all tried to be good neighbors. They would have regular loud parties that were rough on my 1.5-year-old and my pregnant with twins wife. Being in my 30s at the time, I didn't want to complain or be naggy about stuff. I felt they should be able to entertain and use their house as they saw fit. Tried to politely approach them about how bad the nights got for us during that phase. The pregnancy was difficult and my daughter was not a good sleeper. She, newly minted lawyer, quickly took the we can do what we want approach. That was how all interaction went from then on. The property was almost a brand new build. In our area, builders don't have to landscape. Our friends didn't do all the fencing etc., and from early on this couple was motivated to add value to the property. We agreed to split the cost of fencing etc. between the homes. I went and picked up much of the material, and then when the upgrades were done, she informed me that it was too much, they were not going to pay and I would get a bet myself, a mediator. The guy made a brief attempt at playing good cop and smooth it over, but in the end we ate it because for the $600 to $700 the legal fees and mediator stuff would have likely been at least as costly. Our property was on the top of a bank that emptied out onto the properties behind. The neighbor behind wanted to build a retaining wall across the entire backside of our and the neighbor's property. Though there was some cause for questioning this, the understanding of local bylaws seemed to suggest our neighbor behind had the responsibility to maintain the bank, despite the direct benefit of our 2 properties received from this. He came to both families with the very reasonable, in my opinion, request that he would cover 50% of the retaining wall and asked each family to contribute 25% each. Keep in mind that rear fencing, landscaping, future sheds and improvements would have been near impossible without this retaining wall, so it really was in our interest to support this. Next door refused to contribute anything to the project, though he did help us build it. I was so embarrassed I paid our neighbor behind a bit over a third of the cost. I have rarely met people I disliked more than those two. They had a higher household income than we did, were incredibly cheap and unwilling to consider other situations. Disney. Oh. And yeah guys, as you can see, she's still wearing this because she likes to scratch her chin, and that is just not good for her, not Disney. Yeah, the vet said it's not really a big issue, but we should let her wear this for a while, so she simply does not scratch. But then again, I guess it's better than, I don't know what it's called in English, but when you have like a lot of pimples, it's called acne or something, and I guess cats have that too, and thankfully she does not have that. Right, Disney, you don't have that, right? Boop boop. And yeah, she just likes to chill on my couch. To be honest, I don't even use the couch that much. It is mainly my girlfriend and my cat using them. Wanna lick the finger? Oh, no finger licking today. Not finger licking good like KFC. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. Little tiger cat. Tiger cat Disney. I guess she wants to go to her room. Oh, big finger. Always feels good. So Disney, you wanna drink water? Don't wanna drink water. I think she just wanna take more naps. Oh. Okay guys, thank you so much for watching. I see you again tomorrow. And ripe stars, with this we have reached the end of the video. However, if you still cannot get enough of my content, then I would highly suggest to check out my endless binge watch playlist, which will soon show up in the left corner of the screen. In addition, I would really appreciate it if you could not only subscribe to the channel, but also turn on the bell notifications, which you can do by clicking on the little bell icon right next to the subscribe button. This will help my channel tremendously, and this will make sure that you don't miss any of my videos. Furthermore, if you want to see additional ripe content that I don't post on YouTube, then I would suggest to head on over to patreon.com/ripeyoutube for more than 50 exclusive videos that you will not see anywhere else. Thank you so much for your amazing daily support, and I hope to see you again tomorrow.